Well, we are live. Your mic is over there.
I have it.
Oh, okay. And it should be turned on. So, and of course, the dog has ignored us this whole time. But the minute we sit down,
Actually, she hasn't ignored me all day. She's been laying at my feet and tripping me and making me almost die.
well, tonight we're going to talk about the why someone would look for a functional medicine practitioner. What is it that a functional medicine practitioner offers that is different from what your medical doctor offers or something like that? I was just having this conversation with a new functional medicine patient, and the functional medicine patient had several chronic diseases and had one I'd never heard of. I got to do a little research on it. But
What was it?
I have it written down at the clinic. But as we have this written down, you got to remember functional medicine is about optimal performance. It's not like functional medicine doctors work on inflammation and optimizing health more so than saying, oh, you've got inflammation in your joint, you have arthritis. Well, we're going to work on the arthritis. Evening, Kathy.
Shut the door, please.
I know.
And so
Say hi to Miss Kathy for me.
you probably just did. So I have some notes here. Here are some reasons why one might seek out a functional medicine practitioner. It is an individualized approach. Functional medicine practitioners take the time to understand each patient's unique circumstances, including their medical history, lifestyle, and environment. They aim to identify the underlying causes of health issues and develop personalized treatment plans accordingly. And so you've heard us talk about this before. We spend a lot of time, how long do we usually spend in that first exam with people?
Well, you say an hour. It's always 3 at least.
Yeah, it's 2 to 3 hours. And then when we do our visits afterwards, we have to schedule those when we're not seeing chiropractic patients, because each of those appointments is probably anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Wouldn't you say, by the time we do BIAs, metrics,
at least.
and we go over the multiple symptom questionnaires? And so it just allows us to get to know you better, because sometimes the triggers for people's illnesses are very innocuous, meaning they don't just stand out. It's not like you can say, oh, it's not like a lactose intolerance, and if you eat milk, you get sick. That's not the thing. It's more of you've eaten something that you've eaten 1,000 times, and you never put the symptoms that you have 2 to 3 days after are the things that cause you the pain or the problems. And so I hate the buzzword, but it's the root cause medicine. I just think everybody likes to make these things like cliche and one or two sound bites, and it's not. Everybody's an individual, and that's what we have to figure out, because we're not acute care.
No.
How would you compare, because you've been on both sides of the fence, how would you compare them?
Well, in my world, it wasn't necessarily acute. You're just treating symptoms, trying to get to the cause, but you never had time or enough money. And mostly they just don't have time. They don't have time to sit down and talk to you. So,
well, the doctors don't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. MDs, I'm going to assume that it's what you're asking. The difference between an MD visit and us, is they are booked solid, and you get 5 to 15 minutes, and they treat the symptoms that you have at the moment, and then hope you don't come back, I guess. But we try to figure out the actual problem, fix the problem so they don't have the symptoms.
Yep.
But it's slow. It's a slow process.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Functional medicine is a process of understanding. So the next thing is a holistic perspective. we want to know what your, if you know it, preconception was like. You know, how healthy was your mom? Because the studies are now starting to show that
Come on.
that if you have a
so-
mother that is diabetic, hyperinsulinemic, then that affects the child's genetics. It affects the environment in which the child grows up. And those children are, I forget how many more times, but they're many more times likely to develop type 2 diabetes, obesity, and those types of things.
I got some tidbits. I don't know why I just remembered it.
Have at it.
So, well, you know, you complain certain things at the doctor's office, you get a prescription, but I have a bunch of functional medicine people on my page, but like they did like little quick things. So if your skin is dry, you're probably low on omega-3s. If your eyes are dry, or you have dark circles under your eyes, you're probably
Liver issues.
no, sorry,
Cataract.
no. Dark circles is high insulin or insulin resistance. Dry
or
eyes.
or a folate deficiency because you're
Dry
not
eyes
clearing
is
it.
liver. And puffy underneath your puffiness under your eyes is high glucose. So like little tidbits like that.
And so when we look at that and we look at the holistic approach, we don't focus just on symptoms. Now, if you're having pain like one of our most recent functional medicine patients has, all over body pain, and she's a month in now, and she came in and she's like, I think I can start to walk now. She goes, I haven't been able to walk in forever. And so we gave her some things. They were omega-3 fatty acids, and they were some turmeric blends and stuff like that to help lower the pain. So we do address pain, we do address problems right off the bat, but ultimately it's not about giving you a bunch of stuff and keeping you there. Ultimately, it's about letting your body take back over what it needs to do. And so that's what this second one talks about. It's looking at body systems. And that's a big thing. We look at the connectedness. Recently, I was in a podcast or a community chat where they were talking about immunity. And Dr. Jeffrey Bland, who is kind of one of the godfathers of functional medicine, was talking about how the food that we eat contains information in it. The polyphenols and the phytonutrients that are in there tells the body how good the soil is, how the immune system needs to be reacting. There are receptor sites on your cells that take these things in, and then your body senses what is going on. And it is something it's like everything. It knows what's happening, and that's part of how our adrenals. Libby.
She's a 100-pound toddler.
So what ends up happening is we have two toddlers. So what ends up happening is he was talking about the immunity and the immune system and how everything interacts with it. Your stress, your hormones, your mitochondria. And a lot of it boils down to the mitochondria. They now know that if you're of Eastern European descent, so meaning when they look at the mitochondria, they can tell if your mitochondria have spent more time in the Northern European areas or if they've spent more time at the equatorial areas. And they can now know that the people who have that Northern European, their mitochondria are used to shutting down in the winter, producing less energy and producing more heat. So they don't produce as much energy because they'll vibrate and burn it off as heat to keep the body warm. And that's just how the body knows. You know, when we change from eating fruit and stuff like that to going to more meats and heavy proteins and stuff like that. It's absolutely a fascinating field of work, and functional medicine's the only medicine or discipline, which is probably a better word. It's the only discipline that's actually studying this stuff. And it has to be studied because that's where health and longevity come from. We already talked about root cause identification. That's one of the big things we want to get down to. Is it stress? Do you have a mental block? Do you sit there and ruminate on things? Do you overeat? I'm an overeater, and I like high carb foods. I like simple carb foods. And so I can't have that stuff in my environment because I'll eat it. But knowing these things and starting to identify the triggers allows us to help you mold your environment to make you as healthy as you can be. And of course, reverse some of the issues that you've already developed. Because if you wait until you're 40, 50, 60 years old, you have some things going on. And now you've got to go in there and we've got to reverse those things. One of the big things is trying to get a hold of and educate the younger generation, the 20s, the 13s, 20s, and 30s, getting them to the point that they understand this. Because right now, at this time in their lives, they're bulletproof. Nothing's going to kill them, and they're all going to be, going along, and it's just going to be fine until it isn't. And we're already starting to see that it isn't, because we're seeing more and more obituaries for people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, rather than their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Number 4 is lifestyle and prevention focused. And that's a lot of, everybody's heard us say it before, 80% of functional medicine is focusing on the lifestyle. Because it's those issues, it's those foundational issues. Hey, got my hand in your face. It's sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress, and community. And once we start to nail those things down, people start to feel better. They almost immediately feel better when we get them on the elimination diet. But the idea is not to go on the elimination diet and stay there, because diversity is a key. The integrative approach, like at Integrated Health of Indiana, is integrating body stuff like acupuncture and massage and chiropractic with the holistic of herbs and vitamins and supplements. And so it's integrating those things into a plan for you so that you get better. Because almost everybody that comes to see us has already been to see a medical doctor.
Yeah, they've exhausted.
Yeah, and so they're already on multiple medications. I would even be so bold to say that people should probably start seeing functional medicine doctors really early on before they go to the medical doctor and jump on a bunch of medications, because the medical doctor wants to educate you about your lifestyle. He wants to educate you about sleep and those things. He wants to do this stuff. He literally can't. He doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the staff. He doesn't have the insurance companies won't let him spend that time. They won't let him bill for that time. And so they should go see somebody like us first, so we can get a health coach with you and iron so much of this stuff out so that we put medicine back where medicine does its best. And that's in emergency medicine. That's in save you medicine. That's in I've been shot and I need help medicine. It's not in the, oh, I have diabetes, here's your metformin, go on your way. Not that metformin's not useful sometimes.
Well, yeah,
but
it is, but there should be some education on diet, and it just doesn't happen.
And I'm actually going to step on some toes here, and I'm going to go so far as to say it needs to be science and evidence-based education on diet, not the diet that was paid for by the American Heart Association, and they pay $250,000 to Cheerios so they can put their little stamp seal of approval on the box. That's not nutrition. That's marketing. I'm talking about true nutrition, true eating habits, because I'm to the point I'm so jaded about that stuff. If something makes a health claim, some food product makes a health claim, I immediately know it's BS, and that most likely the very claim that it makes it is going to cause problems with in the long run. Let's see. Next one. Integrative approach. Chronic disease management. Oh man. This is the shoebox that
most chronic diseases
are
brought on by a lifetime of poor nutrition and lifestyles.
And so this
cases.
This is where functional medicine in the beginning really shone, and it's still where it shines, because we do great with these chronic diseases that just smolder. Functional medicine doctors are inflammologists. And so when we talk about inflammologists, we say we look for inflammation. Where's the inflammation in the body? Is it your stress? Is it how you're thinking? Is it the food that you're eating? Or is there some form of an infection? And so what is it? We need to get down to it. We need to get rid of it. And then you can go along your merry way. That is where we started at. But it gets very disheartening to know that if we could get a hold of somebody, if we could have gotten a hold of somebody 10 or 20 years earlier, the outcomes are so much better. And, you know, we have enough patients now that we see it. And we can see the difference between our young patients and our older patients. Our young patients, you know, oh, I'm not having my period. I can't get pregnant. I can't do this, that, or the other. And you start them on some simple lifestyle stuff. You get them away from the crappy foods. And lo and behold, they're pregnant, or their skin clears up, or they don't have acne, or their eczema clears up. We see that all the time. And it's just like anything else. It's like saving for retirement. If you start saving for retirement in your 20s and 30s, you're going to be a lot better off than if you start to save for your retirement when you're 60 and 70. And so those are 6 of the most common reasons that people see functional medicine doctors. And next week, what we're going to do is we're actually going to show you a case now that is on a really severe case of acid reflux, where we had a patient who had a case of acid reflux. She has had triple antibiotic therapy fail 3 times. And we have gone through a case to rebuild her gut, redo everything. And you'll see where she's at next week. Anything to add?
Mm-mm.
Remember, the Farm Bill is coming up next year. Please read Food Fix by Dr. Hyman. Go to bread.org and add your name to support the Farm Bill and to help those people in need, the people on SNAP and WIC and assisted nutrition. But we need to help them so we don't poison them. We don't need to be giving them sugar, and so, or added sugar and tons of sugar. You know, a little sugar is not bad, but when sugar is in the bun and it's in the meat and it's in the ketchup and it's in the mustard and it's in the pickles and it's in the soda and it's in the everything, you know, when they say dose is in the poison, well, how many of those things do you need to have that in before it's poisoning your mitochondria? Well, high fructose corn syrup poisons the mitochondria just like that. Starts to change it. So with that, should we say adieu?
Mm-hmm.
We got to get back at it. I got to go get flightless fruit flies for her spider. Have a good night.